Hi, I'm Antonio Sala, and in this video we will continue with our discussion on the modeling and control of this unstable bioreactor model, just a crude approximation to a true bioreactor control, and we'll try to control it with proportional control. In a prior video, we discussed how from a microscopic statistical model we got a law of large numbers version deterministic mean behavior of the exponential explosion of the population in a bioreactor, assuming of course that nutrients are fed so that the cells have enough food. And then we had also an inflow or outflow of biomass that we could use to control. This system was unstable in open loop, so even if by taking derivatives to zero or letting s equal to zero in the transfer function, we computed the DC gain and an equilibrium point between input and output, the thing is that these computations are only valid in theory, because unstable systems verify that any minor deviation in practice from the true equilibrium situation, or any minor modeling error, let's say, makes that deviations grow to infinity. So this is useless unless we stabilize our system. Then that will be our goal. So if we start with this model, then the first idea we may use to stabilize it is proportional control. In particular, closed loop control, saying that U depends on X with this formula, controller gain Kc times the error, which is the desired value, reference value for the biomass minus the actual value of the biomass. Then of course, in order to implement that, I need some instrumentation in order to sense, to measure which is the biomass population in my tank. I would need to measure, let's say, biomass concentration and total volume or weight or whatever, but we need technology to implement this. But in control theory, we make abstraction of the technology and we discuss the properties of the differential equations, but of course in real life we need variable flow pumps, we need sensor probes, and we also need not only controlling population but controlling nutrients, substrate, temperature, pH, toxic waste metabolites, etc. in order to successfully carry out, let's say, a fermentation for food industry or pharmaceutical industry. So well, back to our humble theory, we will replace this u of x there and analyze the properties of this closed loop. Then the equations in closed loop will be these ones, that of course can be rewritten as this expression here, whose properties we will analyze. Just a side note, in practical applications we may need to consider that we have a measurement noise here and the actual control action will be the commanded one plus some, bias, miscalibration or leakage or whatever, which we will call, let's say, delta U. Then the full closed-loop analysis would need to assess the impact of these two extra unknown inputs. These are disturbances, these are non-manipulated inputs. But okay, for simplicity, this is just an introductory video. We will forget about those disturbances and concentrate on just reference tracking behavior, leaving this analysis for sequel videos in the collection. So, forgetting about that, we concentrate on this, and then in a first order equation that has just an exponential response, we need to consider just two things, which is the exponential, the stability and settling time, let's say, and which is the final value. So the coefficient that multiplies x, if we forget about this, the free response will be this. So the coefficient that multiplies time is the coefficient that multiplies x in this equation, and then this is the closed loop pole, and we reach the conclusion that if Kc is larger than 0.4, then the closed loop pole is negative, the exponential is decreasing in time, so the closed loop system is stable. What is the intuitive meaning of this? Well, if the natural growth of the population is 0.4x, then if x increments, then my increment of control action is larger than 0.4x negative. If x has a positive increment, then I will increment my extraction more than 0.4x, so I will extract more population than the natural growth rate of x is, and then this is why this is negative, and so if I extract more than the natural growing rate, my population would decrease with an exponentially stable behavior. So this analytical expression is just a confirmation of my common sense that in order to stabilize, I need to extract at least 0.4x, and in that case, things will be kept constant. That was the equilibrium equation. And if I extract more than 0.4x, population will diminish. Of course, in order to avoid population going to zero, I will have KCR as a fixed influx of population so that I will not wash out the bioreactor, but something will keep inside. How much? Well, let's discuss it. The equilibrium value will be obtained by setting derivatives to zero. So if my set point reaches a constant value, which is what we are assuming everywhere, we are assuming that we wish to keep a constant population, so the underlying assumption is that R is a constant, so R and R equilibrium will be the same. Anyway, these are the equilibrium equations, and then the X in equilibrium will be Kc, getting this to the other side and dividing this expression multiplying the set point. So the green expression will be the closed loop DC gain from set point to output. And well, we can see, for instance, that if Kc is larger than 0.4, so that the loop is stable, strictly larger, let's say I may have Kc 5, and then denominator will be 4.6. So this thing, this closed loop DC gain, is strictly larger than 1 if I choose stable gains, which is the only sensible thing to do. So in operation, this bioreactor under proportional control will converge exponentially to a value of biomass that will be above the set point. If we take out our calculator, we'll see that the larger Kc is, the closer to the set point is, but it will be always above the desired value. Let's say with Kc equal 3, we will be 15% above our desired reference value. But if we say that Kc instead of 3 is 8, we would be only 5% above our desired value. So we will always be above it, but the larger Kc is, the larger the controller gain is, the closer to the set point we will finish. And well, the other thing is that settling time in an exponential is computed by equating this exponential to, let's say, 0.05. Then the result is that settling time logarithm of 0.05 is minus 3, let's say. So it's 3 divided by the absolute value of the pole. Then this will be the settling time. That, of course, the larger Kc is, the smaller the settling time is, roughly in an inversely proportional way, once Kc is large enough. Then we conclude that under proportional control, we will have stable operation, we will have a steady state permanent offset, because the biomass will be above the desired value, but the larger the proportional gain, the smaller the offset, and the faster the transient will be. Indeed, proportional control has this steady state offset because, if I want to keep 1 billion cells, then when R is 1 and X is 1, then the error will be 0, control action will be 0, so I would close, let's say, my extraction, and then population will grow exponentially. It's only when I detect that it's growing that I will extract more and more and more until I reach equilibrium. So from common sense considerations, we can indeed understand that this proportional control will keep a biomass value slightly larger than the desired one, because proportional controllers turn off control when the set point is reached, and that's sort of wrong, and that's why integral action was invented, but that will be left for future videos. And what about transfer function representation? How can we get these kind of results? Well, they will be identical, but in transfer function, this will be the process. My controller will just multiply the error times the Kc constant, and this will be my output that, well, conventional block diagrams call it y, but if you call it x, it's just the same. The thing is that carrying out standard operations, it's easy to prove that this is the closed loop transfer function between controlled variable and set point under negative feedback. And then if we replace g by our model, we'll get this expression, and now multiplying numerator and denominator of the big fraction by s minus 0.4 to remove denominators, we get this expression as the closed loop transfer function from set point to controlled output. And then, well, the closed loop poles are obtained by equating denominator to 0, so the roots of the denominator is this closed loop pole, identical to what we obtained, and the DC gain in closed loop comes from just replacing this s variable with 0, and again we get the same closed loop DC gain as we got operating with the differential equations. So as I said, in single input, single output control, we start teaching Laplace transform and this kind of manipulations with block diagrams and transfer functions, but in multivariable setups, we tend to prefer state space representations for numerical reasons and, to manipulate matrices of constant numbers instead of matrices of transfer functions. But in this first order case, perhaps the differential equation setup we considered here was very easy because we had just one differential equation. But okay, both approaches yield exactly the same results, as expected, of course. So now, in order to end the video, we'll carry out a simulation to check that simulations confirm what we deduced with our theoretical manipulations. So, if I define my transfer function of my process and I execute a PID control application that I have to simulate PIDs for my students, we load from workspace, and then this is the simulation in which, okay, forget about all the stuff on screen that is not related to proportional control, and then in here, well, we simulate zero gain control, open loop, and then things drift away when an input disturbance occurs at 10 hours, let's say, but in practice things will explode away immediately. But okay, if I turn up the gain a little bit, well, it's unstable, unstable, unstable. I mean, things grow and grow and grow, exponentially to infinity, and only when I reach 0.4, then the system is marginally unstable, in the sense that the growth to infinity is not exponential, it's a straight line, it's a ramp. But okay, it's useless in practice, so we need to stabilize with a gain larger than 0.4. So in here we see now exponentials going to some equilibrium, but settling time is too large, so we need higher gain to make the system faster. So if I put, let's say, a gain of 2, we say that there is sort of a bit of effect of saturation, but theory does not predict any behavior with saturation, so we will switch saturation off in my simulation. Then, for instance, with this Kc equal to, if we recall our DC gain computations, 2 divided by 2 minus 0.4 was the final value, 1.25. We are applying this formula, and then if we go to the application and we zoom in, we see that indeed the simulation stabilizes around 1.25. Well, there is some measurement noise there. We see that if we make the gain higher, the steady state offset position error gets smaller and smaller, and the transient gets faster. For instance, with a gain of 8, the settling time will be 3 over 8 minus 0.4, well, roughly 0.4 seconds. So if we zoom in, indeed we see that everything has happened in 0.4 seconds, and only 5% maybe of the population growth is remaining. That's the meaning of 95% settling time. So, in summary, in this video we have computed closed loop stability and closed loop DC gain for an unstable bioreactor under proportional control, and we have deduced that the final value will be slightly above the reference 1. This is the position error from proportional control. The higher the control gain is, the faster the transient will be, and the smaller the position error in equilibrium will also be. But of course, higher gains will excite saturation, higher gains will amplify measurement noise, higher gains will open and close with high amplitude and frequency my inlet and outlet bioreactor valves, so they will break by fatigue. So higher gain may not be the miracle solution, and we may need to resort to other options such as integral action. We did simulate our proportional control with this application, and we observed that the simulation was in accordance to what theory predicted. Of course, because it's a perfect simulation. Practical experimentation may have modeling errors, valve dynamics, nutrient exhaustion, whatever, that may make things more difficult. But we are not doing practical stuff, we are just making our first steps into what control is. So with this, we end the video here. Thanks for watching.